Hi, everyone. This is Lowell, and we're talking about the subject of writing songs. And I wanted to start out with lyrics, and they're probably the factors of study that we're going to look into is lyrics and melody, harmony, and rhythm, and possibly instrumentation. But starting out with lyrics, I wanted to highlight the fact that lyrics can be seen in three different levels. And one of the earlier videos, we talked about the biblical concept of spirit, soul, and body, how that correlates to melody, harmony, and rhythm. And just to reiterate that, we feel rhythm in our bodies. The human being can hear frequency or vibrations per second down to 20 vibrations per second is known as hertz. But then below that, vibrations or frequency still continues even though you can't hear it. And so below 20 hertz, your body feels those vibrations, and that is what we understand as rhythm. And so our bodies respond to the rhythmic aspects of songs, and then our souls respond to the meaning, the felt meaning, emotional meaning, but as well as the intellectual meaning, the poetic meaning of or the structure, anything that deals with pattern and structure. Our souls can pick up on that, and then our spirit is something different, and it's actually at a more, I guess, intuitive level would be a good word. And that is kind of the direction or the motivation of what is being conveyed. And that correlates nicely to melody. So melody, harmony, and rhythm go hand in hand, as far as I can see, with the biblical concept of the tripartite nature of man, which is spirit, soul, and body. So talking about lyrics, I used to think that lyrics really only functioned in the rhythmic element because of the what do you call it? The poetry, the pentameter, basically of how the words are set up rhythmically. But I've come to believe that words really function on all three areas of spirit, soul, and body, of melody, harmony, and rhythm. There are elements, of course, of lyrics that are rhythmic, and then there's also elements of lyrics that carry thought, provoking thought as well as provoking emotion. And then there's also elements of lyrics that show the motivation or the direction, the I guess subplot, if you want to call it, the underlying theme, the hidden meaning. Would be what different ways of talking about the spiritual aspect of lyrics. Here's just something I pulled up to read a little bit about, and it's talking about the rhythmic nature of lyrics. Poetry, also referred to as verse, is a genre of literature that consists of writing that is arranged into lines that often follow a pattern of rhythm or rhyme or both. The three main types of poetry are formal verse, blank verse, and free verse. It talks about stress. It talks about the definition of foot. In poetry, a foot refers to the rhythmic units that make up lines of meter. The iamb, I-A-M-B, is the type of foot that is the basis of common meter. And then meter is a pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables that define the rhythm of lines of poetry. Poetic meters are named for their type and number of feet they contain. For example, the iambic pentameter is a type of meter that contains 5 iambs per line, thus the prefix penta, which means 5. So that's my understanding is that Shakespeare wrote in iambic pentameter. I could be wrong about that, but it seems to be the most common form of poetic meter. So a lot of what we understand in our current culture of songwriting has to do with the style of what we're talking about here, the style of rhythm of how the words are put together. It doesn't mean that that's the only way of doing it. I've experimented with a lot of different meters and rhythmic patterns in my own writing, more based upon melodic patterning than rhythmic patterning. But anything is possible. And again, you're trying to reach an audience. You're trying to basically speak the language of the audience that you're trying to give something to. And so you're in a culture. We're all in a culture that has certain expectations of the way things sound, and the meter or the pattern of rhythm with the lyrics is something to consider in terms of style and what is publicly acceptable. And if you want to break from those constraints, that's great too. But my point that I'm trying to make here today is that lyrics can function in all these different aspects of music making. It functions rhythmically. It also functions in terms of thought, of patterns, of the human brain picks up on patterns, not just intellectual patterns, but patterns of cycles, patterns of deviances from those patterns. If you have something that's very cyclical and then all of a sudden you break out from that, then that also has meaning. And the concept of motivic development, which I've spoken of quite a bit in other videos, is something that is very common in classical music, and that can also be applied to your writing of lyrics. And so having sequences, having even things that don't make sense, initially while you're writing them, intuitively as you're putting things down, they start taking shape and taking sort of an artistic, not necessarily intellectual shape, but a patterning type of shape that makes sense on basically another level, not just like when I'm writing a song. A lot of times I don't even know what I don't understand intellectually what I'm writing. I'm just writing words down that seem to want to follow each other, and then as I get to the end of the song, it starts actually making more sense. And so what I'm saying is that I'm moving intuitively through the creative process of writing the lyrics. And then there's the spiritual aspect. What is the motivation? Like I said in one of the videos of songwriting, a lot of people write out of anger, which may or may not be a good thing. I think that there's a place, a healthy place for that. A lot of people, if you're writing a love song, you're writing out of your feelings for another person. You're putting thoughts together that are meant to convey the direction of where you're coming from, your motivation, and so which lyrics fall into that, obviously, in terms of the spiritual nature of lyrics. So I encourage you to study some of the things we talked about. Iambic pentameter, study Shakespeare. Shakespeare is possibly the greatest wordsmith, hundreds of years ago, that so much of our English language has been benefited by, and a lot of prose and poetry have been benefited by Shakespeare's work. And to me, Shakespeare is probably synonymous with J.S. Bach in terms of music. If you understand Bach, you understand the foundations of all other music styles all the way across Western history. And same with Shakespeare, with lyrics. So I would encourage you to study Shakespeare. And I'm going to end this video with quoting I think it was an early church father. I think it was St. Francis of Assisi that said this. I could be wrong, but anyway, he said, "He who prays, or he who sings, get it right here. He who sings prays twice." And I think that's very interesting. Is that you have the musical side, the pure music, the whatever, everything that music conveys is on one side, and then you have the lyrics more the mind side, and the music is more the emotion side, and sort of the combination of those in singing comes together to be quite powerful. And so he who sings prays twice.